Good morning, America. How are ya? Monday morning rail. Hi, I'm Denny Jelsma, and I'm at the world famous Jacksonville Terminal Railroad Museum in beautiful Jacksonville, Florida, where the sun always shines and running trains is an absolute pleasure. And today is Monday, and you know what we do on Monday? You guessed it, we do show and tell. Before we go there, I want to thank all the people that stopped by DeLand Train Show in DeLand, Florida this past weekend and said hi to myself and also to Greg Turn, better known as Number Two. He's our cameraman, and he had a booth down there and he did very well, and he appreciated all the people that came by and said hi to him. It was just absolutely overwhelming, the reception that we get when we go to train shows, and we just thank you for watching week after week. And we're now from a typical show and tell is watched by from 10 to 12,000 every week, so we thank you. And once again, Jelsma Graphics sponsors show and tell every week. So for all of your railroad embroidered clothing, like what you see here, you go to jelsma.com. That's JELSMA.com. And with all that being said, show and tell is going to start right now.
Hi, I'm Greg Turn, and today we're going to follow up on the segment that Richard did on the BL2s. I thought he did a really good job of explaining what the BL2 was and why he was interested in it and all the information that he got from EMD on it. Well, today we're going to look at why did the EMD build the BL1s and 2s, what was the competition, and some ideas about why the BL2 was less successful than it could have been. Okay, we know that they built 59 of them over a 2-year period from 1948 and in 1949. In the early 1940s, EMD was way ahead of Baldwin, Fairbanks Morse, and Alco in freight and passenger covered wagons. So they really were kind of the big dog in the diesel market. But they really didn't have anything in a road switcher. In fact, nobody had thought of them at that time. In the first real, what could be considered a modern road switcher configuration with a long shell, a short nose, cab kind of in the middle, was the Alco's RS1. They started production in 1940, and until 1943, all production went to the military. Some of it went overseas, some of it was used in military installations in the United States. In 1943, private production started again. So that was the first one. Now that was only 1,000 horsepower, so it was significantly less powerful than the BL2. But what else was going on at that same time? In 1948, Baldwin came out with their light road switchers, this is one of their heavy road switchers, but the light road switcher looked very much the same. Again, it was 1,000 horsepower BB unit. Okay, they made 21 of them between 1948 and 1950. RS1s, they made 671, but that was over a significantly longer run. What would have been more compatible with the BL2s were the heavy road switchers. Alco came out with their RS2 in 1946. Again, that was a 1,500 horsepower unit, so same horsepower as the BL2. Came out 2 years earlier than the BL2. They made it in both a BB road truck, and they made it in A1A trucked also, which was the RSC2. Those were produced from 46 to 50. Then in 1950 they were replaced with the RS3, which was a 1600 horsepower unit, and we'll notice that that came out right after the BL2s. The RS3s were also available in an A1A configuration and a CC wheel arrangement. What was Baldwin doing at this time? Well, again, in 1946, Baldwin started making their DRS series. Came in at 1500 horsepower, and they were available again as either BB trucked, A1A trucked, or CC trucks. And then they were replaced in 1950 by the AS series. Now these are both AS series. There were no external differences between the DRS from 46 to 50 and the AS series from 50 to 55. ASs were 1600 horsepower. Both sets came in BB, A1A, and CC trucked versions. Baldwin built a total of 140 of the DRS series from 46 to 50. They made 429 of their heavy road switchers in total. Fairbanks Morse was also active in the road switcher. They had their H1544, again a 1500 horsepower BB unit that they made from 47 to 49. They sold 30 of those. And in 1950, they started producing the H1644, which again, 1600 horsepower BB units. So that's what was going on in the marketplace. And EMD had nothing to compete with the Alco RS2, the Baldwin AS or DRS series, or the Fairbanks Morse. And they said, well, we need something. And that's when they came up with the BL2. So, but then the question becomes, why did they only make it for 2 years? Why was it less successful than either Baldwin, Alco, or Fairbanks Morse in the road switcher department? And there were a couple of reasons. Richard listed cost, and that was one of the big ones. Also, if you look at the BL2 as opposed to either the Alco, the RS series, or the Baldwins, there are no external doors on the BL2, which meant that there was no way to access the prime mover or anything else from the outside. You can also look at the idea that as compared to a covered wagon here, there's a lot less interior room. You know, the shell tapers in, it's narrower, it's much harder to work on this engine. Rodney was telling me that the shop people on the FEC really hated working on these engines because it was so cramped inside. And again, as opposed to a road switcher design where you could open the side doors, a lot of the work could be done from the outside. So what else? We can kind of look at the visibility. Now, obviously, the visibility on an F unit to the rear is very poor. It's obviously better in a BL2. You do have a small window here, and the body is tapered in, so you do have some rear. But if you compare that to the sight lines of an RS, you compare it to the sight lines of the Baldwins, obviously your rear or long hood visibility is much better on the road switchers as opposed to the BL2s. Another thing you can look at is cab access. Just like on the F unit, the only way to access the cab was through this ladder on the side. as opposed to, again, the road switcher idea where you can come up the steps, walk along the platform, enter from either side, and you're in the cab. You can get out if something goes wrong. Okay, if something goes wrong with your locomotive, you can sometimes get off, open the doors, check on it. In a covered wagon, you can go back inside. There's quite a bit of room. BL2 not so much. And maybe the other thing is that it was available only in a BB configuration. Alco had not only BBs but A1As, and Baldwin had all three. In fact, the Baldwin CC cab was by far their most popular of their heavy road switchers, and the BL2 didn't have that. What did they do? They finally realized, hey, this isn't working quite right. They replaced the BL2 with the GP7, and we know they kind of hit a home run with that one. Between 1949 and 53, they made 1,299 GP7s, 186 SD7s for a total production of 1,485, and then obviously replaced it with the even more successful GP9. But that's why EMD built the BL2. This is what they were fighting, and why they came up short in one of their very few real failures in the diesel market. Thank you.
Well, thank you, number two. I really appreciate that, and the viewers do too also. It was very interesting. Now, remember, Greg will sign autographs with his glossy photos every Monday from 6 a.m. In the morning. He's gotten a little earlier, all the way to 6:30. So, with all that being said, we're at the world-famous Jacksonville Terminal Railroad in beautiful Jacksonville, Florida, where the sun always shines and running trains is an absolute pleasure.